Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good morning to my friends. So we from Group 1 gonna present you the influence of gender and on personality developments. First, I'm gonna introduce you to my group members. First, Nur Amira Hazlinda, Nur Ashkin binti Nurijan, Nur Atirah binti Muhammad Nur. Next, Ahmad Khairuddin, and last but not least, Toy Jaan. So now we go to the introduction. First, the definition of personality. Personality is a set of psychological traits and mechanisms within the individual that are organized and relatively enduring, and that influence his and her interaction with and adaptation to the intrapsychic, physical, and social environment. So we're gonna know personality differs from each individual that make them very unique and special for each of them. They also are influenced by many factors, and one of them is gender. So, gender, based on American psychological associations, are referred to the attitude, feeling, and behavior that are given culture associated with person biological sex. So, we're gonna know what are the difference. We talk about the difference between genders and how which gender we can define and we can add and how personality adjusts itself because of gender.
Social plays an essential role in personality development. Socialization theory, social learning theory, and social law theory explain how personality development differences arise among different genders. Socialization refers to the process of an individual acquiring social skills, behaviors, values, and beliefs to function effectively in society or a particular group. It holds that males and females have differences in personalities because of clearly sex-differentiated learning experiences. For instance, males are reinforced to be masculine, whereas females are reinforced to be feminine. Males are given toy guns, while females are given dolls. Males are told not to cry, whereas females are comforted when crying. They are accustomed to their gender classes of behaviors because they are taught to behave in that way since they were young. This subsequently affects their personality development. Social learning theory is the process of learning which is vastly based on modeling, imitation of models, and other social interactions through observing others' behaviors. People learn through observing the behaviors of their same-sex models. Gender-appropriate behaviors that receive reinforcement will be continued to implement, and behaviors that are considered inappropriate for their gender will be eliminated once they receive punishment. Furthermore, the influence of peers who behave masculine or feminine will reinforce males and females to behave similarly. The possession of traits that are correlated to gender leads to different personality development between males and females. Social law theory is a model that proposes the differences in behaviors between males and females can be attributed to cultural standards and expectations about gender in society rather than biological factors. Males and females have different personalities due to the reason that they are distributed into different gender roles, family roles, social roles, as well as occupational roles. For instance, males are expected to be breadwinners while females are expected to be homemakers. Males learn breadwinners related traits such as tough, brave, and aggressive. Females learn to nurture, be patient, and be emotionally supportive, which are related to homemakers. These different characteristics they learn from childhood will be carried with them throughout their development and are stable over time as well as consistent over situations.
The anatomy of men and women are different. Some physical differences are very good to adjust each gender to its responsibility. Female have less muscle mass than male. As a result, men are typically physically bigger, muscular, and more powerful than women. Since male and female have different anatomy, each gender is exploited differently. There are several things related to the exploitation of women that have changed over the years, but until now, men's status has risen above the women's. Physically and mentally abused by men, trafficking in women, and violence against women are all important concerns of women's exploitation. Sexual aggression is described as behavior carried out with the intent or result of compelling another person to engage in sexual activity despite his or her refusal. Men are more likely than women to engage in sexual aggression across most forms of aggression. Since men are bigger and stronger than women, women could only cause injury or harm with weapons or things thrown by them, whereas men can inflict similar or greater harm with their bodies. Men are also exploited as well, but in a different way than women. Labor exploitation is defined as any abuse engaged by an employer against the employee. This issue is frequently associated with men because, as we all know, men have larger muscle, are stronger, and can actually spend more energy than women. Women are also involved in labor exploitation, but their numbers are typically lower than men's. Work-related hazards are common in forced labor jobs such as commercial fishing, industrial production, and construction. Manufacturing for electronic parts and consumer goods also employ a large number of male workers who mostly work under forced labor situation and are exposed to workplace hazards such as toxic substances, contaminants, and machine-related injuries. Construction work risks include lifting heavily loaded and equipment injuries. Men who are trafficked for fishing activities face inhuman working conditions. It is normal for men and women to fight and start competing with those of their own gender. Men have indeed been sexually chosen to compete for survival and reproduction with other men. Men fight to maintain defense capabilities and to set up a level in the power hierarchy. Female fight with one another to grab a suited male by displaying characteristics that the opposite gender find appealing. Men, according to research, are much more aggressive in competition than women. Men typically use their physical prowess and strength. Males with greater physical prowess are also known as alpha male. Alpha male are at the top level of hierarchical status. They have more power, money, and mass as a result of their physical prowess, intimidation, and dominance. Alpha males are commonly referred to as a real man. The alpha male has a high degree of self and social confidence overall. They approach women in a masculine manner. In comparison, beta males are indeed the low-status, frail, faithful, and the completely reliant guys who only find partner when women choose to accept them. Beta males typically have a low degree of self and social confidence. Males with greater physical prowess compete with the strength to serve better outcome to the dominant. The path to dominance is laid with intimidation, risk, and persuasion. The dominant alpha male is valued in a harsh, horrible environment because he can get what he desires as well as provide resources to those that will accept and follow him. Dominant persons were rated better in athletic ability and leadership by their peer group. Following that, they provide a greater advantage to aggressive with their own power. As we already know, alpha males are stronger and more aggressive than beta males. Aggressiveness, on the other hand, represents the desire to stay competitive and the drive to win. They are aggressive in their desire to be more crucial than others and that they are constantly striving to be at the highest part of their performance. Beta males aren't as driven to win. They have the perception that everything they need to do is go with the flow. As a result, this aggressiveness is completely out of the character for them. Finally, males with greater physical prowess become more disagreeable. People who disagree put their own needs ahead of getting along with the others. Their skepticism about the intention of others can cause them to be suspicious, disrespectful, and disobedient at times. On the other hand, beta males do not take a principled stand for what they trust and instead simply follow. Beta male who can't stand being rejected will go to any length to earn their place. He will agree with perception or opinion he does not hold, follow blindly, and supplicate himself to gain the acceptance of others.
Last but not least, we are going to discuss the influence of personality temperament on gender differences toward personality development. Most of the time, differences of gender personality are focused in level score each trait in between gender. As an example, women score higher on consciousness and men score lower in neuroticism. We are going to highlight on gender influence in personality development by using the Big 5 factor model, or commonly known as the Big 5. The Big 5 consists of 5 basic dimensions of personality, which are consciousness, extroversion, agreeableness, neuroticism, and openness. To start, one of the traits from the Big 5 personality, which is consciousness, will be discussed first to indicate the gender influence in personality development. Consciousness is defined as the propensity to follow socially prescribed norms for impulse control, to be goal-directed, to plan, and to be able to delay gratification. Consciousness are usually linked with characteristic traits such as responsible, persevering, and meticulous. Women are mostly associated as individuals with high consciousness, and most of the research has shown that. As an example, based on the research, women score higher on consciousness and more willing on complying with preventative health behavior (PHB) during COVID-19 pandemic. The research showed that women are more conscious and responsible compared to men in taking preventative health behavior, such as using hand sanitizer, wearing face masks, and social distancing to avoid the risk of catching the COVID-19. Next, neuroticism are often related with traits such as anger, depression, and emotional instability. Neuroticism are defined as the tendency to experience negative emotion and related processes in response. Global traits of neuroticism have these 6 facets, which are depression, self-consciousness, impulsivity, angry, hostility, anxiety, and vulnerability. Individuals with high neuroticism experience greater stress response and more time to recover and are perceived as someone that is anxious, moody, and tense. Most of the time, women have been found to score higher on neuroticism compared to men. However, women do not usually score higher in one of the neuroticism facets, which is the angry hostility.
Then, agreeableness. This trait is associated with altruism like kindness and empathy. It relates to have high tendency to cooperate, consider, and maintain harmony between others. Women steadily score higher than men on agreeableness. Men have a lower score than women because men are more self-controlled. They are more independent and portray themselves in society as me instead of us. In interactionist approaches, women are expected to act in a nurturing and caring manner because they are raised to be nurturing. As a result, women better portray their feelings and understand others, especially non-verbal behavior. According to the social role theory, the differences in behavior between men and women result from social role. Men in general have the role of father, manager, or any leader role more than women. So they need to be independent and self-reliant more than women. They need to be more firm with their point of view and become harder to convince than women. So men are raised to be leaders and have independence in their life. Next, openness demonstrates a person's open-mindedness. Openness indicates inventiveness, creativity, curiosity, and aesthetic appreciation. Men and women have identical personalities in this dimension. No difference between men and women. Even though women are slightly higher than men, the score is negligible because the difference does not impact the personality differences, likely because of the divergent content of the trait. For example, women have scored higher than men on the facet of aesthetic and feelings, whereas men tend to score higher on the ideas facet. A person has a full control of their life and choices and does not depend on gender. Lastly, extraversion is associated with friendliness, assertiveness, and emotional well-being. Overall, women score slightly higher than men in extraversion. Since there are 3 facets of extraversion: gregarious, assertiveness, and positive emotion, it is hard to determine each aspect. In men, they score higher for assertiveness than women, reflecting trait related to dominance. Thus, it explains why men value power more than women. Women score higher for gregarious and positive emotion. In the neo-analytic approaches, Erikson conceptualization described male traits such as being active, exploring, wearing, and pragmatic, corresponding to the known outwardly extended genital. For female characteristics, he portrays gentleness, nurturing, and peacefulness. Women can be seen as more friendly and warmer than men because of their role as mother, giving birth and taking care of their newborns. In conclusion, women have a slightly higher result for extraversion than men.
For the conclusion, we can say that genders does not show a significant distinction in the individual level in regard to personality development. Personality are influenced by multiple variables and gender only a small part of it. It is based on your own experience, on what you get and how you grow up, on what you face It is what makes personality unique, and gender is just a small part that influence personality. And when we see through temperaments, we can see men and women are more similar than different. Of course, there is some difference in the extreme level, but most of us, the average of us, are nearly similar. And last but not least, humans are capable of choosing paths that's desirable by their interests and situations. So you need to do the best of you can, so you be who you want to be.